Welcome back to yet another episode of How It's Made. My name is Sarah and behind the camera is Bernard Eugene. Previously on our channel, we showed you how to make fondant icing. Remember, we are using King Baker's icing sugar. So today, I'm going to show you how to lay this fondant on our cake, pull out the sharp edges, and do stencil work. There's so many types of stencils, so many designs. So it depends on what you want. And after this, after we have put our stencil design on the cake, we are going to airbrush with airbrush colors, and you're going to see how it's made. Like, you're going to really see how airbrush is done, how stencil work is done, how laying fondant on your cake is done. So thank you, and I welcome you to How It's Made. So when you make your fondant and it stays for some time, when it is kept, this is what happens. It's breaking, it's not sexy at all. So what you do, you add in some glycerin syrup in your fondant, and on top of that, you add in some CMC to make it combine together very well. Add in a few pinches, like a pinch of CMC, and then you start the kneading. So if you are using the best icing sugar, what happens is this will combine easily and quickly, unless if you're using the worst icing sugar type. Okay, so but for this case, we are using King Baker's icing sugar, and let's see what it does for us. So you keep kneading until it really combines together into a smooth and stretchy fondant. This is how far it is. You see that? How smooth it is. If you realize it's not stretching enough, it's okay to add in a few drops of glycerin syrup. And when you're using glycerin, please, when you're going to purchase glycerin, go for 99%. Don't look for those, low percentage of glycerin. And keep kneading. Remember, this fondant, we made it last week in our previous episode of how fondant is made. So this time around, we are putting this fondant on our cake. So this is how far we've gone. Our fondant is stretching enough. It is smooth, as you can see. And we are soon putting it on our cake. Okay, so our fondant is ready. It is smooth. Make it in a bowl, and we are going to put here some icing sugar to dust our table. And we put our fondant here. So before we do that, because we are using a dummy, okay? This is not a cake. So we're using a dummy. So we need to first blush our cake with water, or we spray it with some water so that the fondant can stick on our cake. Even if it is a cake, it's advisable that you do some water spraying, so you can see how it is shiny. It really shows you that water has been evenly spread on our dummy. So we start laying our fondant. Okay. Of course, you need a rolling pin to do this. So we start layering or spreading our fondant. Those of you who know how to make chapatis, how to load chapatis, this is easy for you. So you see how smooth it is and how white it is. The answer is just because I use King Baker's icing sugar. Okay. So this is enough for us. So we roll our fondant here, we bring our cake, put it here, then we lay over and below. Okay, first thing you need to make sure, of course you need a smoother, make sure the top is smooth enough, and now you start laying it over the cake. Don't mind the tearings, they'll be worked on. So you first, save the sides, the edges of the cake. Open the folds. You have to be a little bit fast because you wouldn't want your fondant to, dry in your hands as you do this. You be fast but steady. That's what we call steady fast. I don't know if that's the word. Then see this, we open the folds and press them in. All folds in. And that's it. So we have to smoothen our cake. Make sure it is really flat enough, like that. Then we work on the sides. Up, down motion is what is used here. Turn for you to see. So we remove this excess fondant off our cake. First knead it and keep it safe. Put it there. Then bring it to the stand. At this point you need the turntable so that think about your sharp edges. And I'm going to show you another trick of how best to pull out the sharp edges. So we are going to flip our cake so that we can get the sharp edges. So you get a clear board, place it here, hold your cake very well, put your hand down and you flip the cake. Press it back on the turntable. Now do the magic of pulling out the sharp edges. As you get as if you're pinching the cake, but you're not. Like that. Like that. Like that. So what we have to do, we are going to cut off this excess fondant from the cake. Okay, so we cleared off the excess fondant, that with the one that we're placing down. So we're going to flip back our cake. Okay, that's it. Back to the turntable and off. So you can see we already have a very smart, sharp-edged cake. You know, the sharp edges can even cut your fingers. Yeah, so now we have to clear off the excess from the lower part of the board. The same way we did the top is the same way we are going to do the bottom of the cake. So again, we cut off the excess fondant. So you remember to clean your board. If it is not wet enough, spray some water. Then you clean the board. So that's it. We have our well-covered cake with fondant icing. We pulled out the sharp edges and we made sure we have very neat cake. So what you need to do is make use of your smoother and focus, because if you don't focus, things won't really come out. So the next step you're going to do is do the stencil work. Stay tuned, I'll be back. So guys, as I promised you, I said we are going to do our stencil work. I hope you've seen so many stencils. This is how they look. There's big size, small size, so many designs. You choose what you want. So when you do the stencil work, you flip it the way you want, because this is just even or the same. And we place it on our cake just like this. And you need to have someone to hold for you the other side if you can't really handle it alone. So we are doing with our loyal icing, which is green. So I'm going to show you how we do the stencil work. You get your cake, you ice your cake with fondant, and then you put your stencil on the cake, get someone to hold for you, and then comfortably start putting your cream on the cake. So our first round is done, so we remove our stencil and our design is on the cake just like it is on the stencil. So we have to continue and make sure the whole cake is fully covered with our design. So we have finished doing our stencil work using the stencil design. It depends what design you want, but that is how you do it. Please, you can use royal icing, you can use buttercream icing to do your stencil designs on your cake. So the next step we're going to do, I promised you that we're going to airbrush our cake so that we give it a different effect, make it more advanced. So I said we are going to work with dust colors. We are going to airbrush. This is the airbrush machine. So it depends on what brand you go for. I bought this at discount shop Chikubo. It works like this, and you use dust colors. So with these dust colors, they are really like real dust. We mix them with vodka. It depends on what type of vodka you're working for or you're working with. So you mix white vodka with the dust color, and you get a solution that is a little bit soft because you wouldn't want it to stick into the airbrush. So after mixing, you just pour in your machine. First test it from here if it is really doing what you want. Then we are going to pull out our design in a unique way. So we are doing the airbrush technique designs. We first did our fondant, pulled out the sharp edges. We then did our stencil work, and we are really airbrushing our stencil work together with the cake. So we need to have a different texture or different looks of our cake. So that's basically how we do our airbrush designs. So if you're doing this, you just have to be very, very keen when it comes to how you mix your solution, which is the dust colors, and you must really, really first have to ask, and when you're purchasing them, are they airbrush colors or hand brush colors? Before you know it, on this channel, we'll be showing you how to do hand blushing, because there's also hand brush techniques. But this is the airbrush technique. So the trick is in making your solution not so thick and not so diluted. And then you can choose to, you can choose to airbrush the cake and then do the stencil work, or you can also choose to airbrush the whole cake with its stencil design. So basically, there are so many ways you can play around with your airbrush and your stencil to pull out something beautiful. And remember, you have to look for the shiny airbrush colors. They must be really shiny, because this, after it has cooled down for like maybe 30 minutes, the color will start coming out very well and becoming more shiny and more bright. So that is it for our class of today, showing you how fondant is made. We previously showed you how we make the fondant. Now we are showing you how to cover the cake, pull out the sharp edges. On top of that, we did stencil work. I say there are so many types of stencil designs, and you can use buttercream icing, or you can also use royal icing if you want the cake to stay longer. And also, when you're doing airbrushing, look for dust colors, especially the bright dust colors like gold, silver, blue, blondes. There's so many dust colors there. And of course, you need to have an airbrush machine, because you want it effectively spread on your cake. And use the vodka of your type to mix your dust color. Some of you may make a mistake and use water. No, don't use water. Use a vodka to mix and spread your cake evenly, and you are good to go. So thank you so much for watching. This is how it's made.